Before this episode begins, I'd like to give a big shout out to Grace Hartman and Angelina Napoleon. Both of them have participated in the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field National Championship. Grace Hartman will finish second in the 10K and fifth in the 5K meters races. And Angelina Napoleon had the best finish for any NC State athlete in the steeplechase, finishing third with 9 minutes and 16 seconds. So huge shout out to both of them. They finished with All American honors, no national championship, but that's not, it's not too bad being nationally recognized for a major sports. All right, so welcome to In the Den, episode 3, I think right now. We have a pretty big lineup. We are going to be doing a preview of our men's soccer team and how they're going to be looking like this season. I'll be doing I don't know what's the middle ground between a basic and a deep dive because there's not a lot to dive into. With the Raleigh Bullfrogs, a former professional basketball team in Raleigh, and I'll be finishing up with an interview from former NC State quarterback Erik Kramer talking about his performance with NC State and a notable game with UNC. So, get buckled in. Let's get to it. We're going to start with the men's soccer season preview. So, looking back on last season, NC State will have a Sweet 16 loss to the national runner-up Marshall. They finished ranked 14th in the nation, which is 6th in their powerhouse ACC conference. However, they were 9th in the conference standings, finishing with 1 win, 1 tie, and 3 losses. But showed strong in the out-of-conference schedule, including ranked Georgetown and ranked Hofstra wins. They were a strong, well-rounded team with about 1.09 goals per game, 40% accuracy on shots on goals, 75% accuracy on saves per game. And while they did have some foul trouble, accumulating over, I don't want to say 600, around 600 fouls for the whole season, they had no issue scoring and keeping the ball away from their opponents. Some of their biggest stars, like Hakeem Karamoko, are leaving, however. Hakeem Karamoko, in particular, got drafted by DC United, a Major League Soccer team. And there are 12 seniors, graduates, fifth-year students who will be leaving the program this season, including Enrique Santos, the midfielder, Will Butte, midfielder, Yves Shoyat, defender, Vizumi Plamana, midfielder, and Liam Bennett, defender. All these guys have gotten very strong minutes, over 1,000 minutes in the previous season, which, that's double-digit games. Some of the top returning players, however, will be Drew Lovelace, Ford, senior, Tag Healy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He leads the team in assists and was one of the team's top point scorer. Also, one of the top point scorers who will be returning is junior Donovan Phillip. The goalie, Logan Erb, is also returning. He is top 5 in saves and is one of the best in the conference when it comes to save accuracy. So with him on the team, the defense will certainly be good. Aiden Payne, who is also someone who's gotten some, over 1,000 minutes playing last season, will be returning. He is a redshirt senior. And a notable lower classman who will be returning, sophomore Nico Marinovich, scored a hat trick, and he's a defender. So, it's pretty good overall. Some of the new guys will be incoming freshmen Isaac Busense and Gianni Rosario. And, both of them are 3 stars. Both of them are from the Northeastern. I think Isaac is from Maryland and Gianni is from New Jersey. Some incoming transfers include Justin McLean, a midfield junior from Georgia State, and Carlos Santamaria from Mercer. He plays midfielder as well. I believe the right way to approach this for the team, the right mindset to get into is next man up. Some productive scorers in Tag Healy and Jonathan Phillip are taking charge, and lowerclassmen should try to fill the big roles left by the massive graduating class, including some production scoring offensively and providing strong depth overall. Players like Aiden Payne, Drew Lovelace, and Isaac Hefus are expected to take on extra minutes and generate more offense from that. Logan Erb and Nico should both continue their positive momentum. Nico, in particular, scoring himself, part of the all freshman ACC team. Even Coach Hubbard, who is in his second year, is showing positive momentum for the team. And there is a big run that is sitting on this team and on this roster. We just need to see it out, essentially. And I think this could be a very good year for that, especially when you look at their schedule. Only half of their ACC opponents made the NCAA tournament. Duke, Clemson, Virginia, Pitt, those are like the top dogs of the conference. Sure. However, they also have to play UNC, Boston College, former national champion Syracuse. It's not the easiest conference schedule, but having those Boston Colleges, Syracuse ain't playing too well. They should be able to come out without a terrible losing record as their floor. Like winning 3 of those games, I think, is their floor appropriately. None of their out-of-conference opponents are ranked, and a lot of them are in the bottom half of their mid-major conferences. However, one notable opponent is conference champion Stetson, or regular season. No, just champion Stetson. I believe they were in, what is their conference? Apologize. Atlantic Sun. So yeah, a Sun champion Stetson is part of the schedule. That will be September 10th, right after the dreaded UNC game. Some other games to look out for. They'll close the regular season. Halloween versus Syracuse, October 10th, at Clemson. They're also at Duke and Notre Dame in October. They also have a road trip with UNC, Wilmington, Boston College, and Pitt. So, not the best schedule. There's a lot of intensive, it's not going to be an easy schedule for them. However, I could see them getting 10 wins and seeing themselves as a solid contender for a deep playoff run, whether in the ACC tournament or in the NCAA tournament, which is, the big dog. All right, that kind of concludes a brief little summary of how the men's soccer program is going to look like. I'm going to be doing this for every episode leading up into the start of the school year. Next one will be women's volleyball. I mean, we don't have a men's volleyball, but just volleyball in general. They're the next one that we'll be getting a preview look. Coming up next, we'll be doing the deep dive on the Raleigh Bullfrogs, and then that interview that I promised. That is definitely here. Time to set the stage for dramatic effect. Dorton Arena is a historic arena on the grounds of the annual North Carolina State Fair. I don't know if you've been. It's really nice. Well, it's mostly been used for concerts and political speeches and such. There have been small instances where professional sports teams have taken root in one of Raleigh's biggest heartbeats. Going all the way to 1990s for this one. In March 1991, the Global Basketball Association was founded by Ted Stepien, the dreaded basketball owner, formerly owned the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you don't know a lot about his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I recommend you do some research on him because, they've made rules based on some of the terrible stuff he's done. That's why you can't have that's why they can't trade consecutive seasons in the NBA. but I digress. He's seeking a new basketball endeavor after folding his Toronto Tornadoes. It's the second team, um, and his fifth time trying to move a team around. Let's look at the other owner, Mike Storin, coming off running the American Basketball Association into a merger with the NBA, having success stealing young stars. Not really much else. The two join forces, as in taking turns owning the team and being commissioner. If you know Ted Stepien, it's Mike Storin who starts as the owner, Ted Stepien who finishes it. And they create the Global Basketball Association, the biggest basketball league of the South/Midwestern USA. They were called the Global Basketball Association because they wanted to bring in international teams to play with them. You know, teams from, I think, Serbia or some like the lower tier Middle Eastern, Eastern Europe countries. That idea didn't really work out, so now we have the most national global basketball league in the world. There are 3 basketball teams in this league that were located in North Carolina. Today we're going to be focusing on the Raleigh Bullfrogs. And the Bullfrogs, they were in deep trouble from the start. They were able to settle into the Dorton Arena, also known as the Lily Pad. I wonder where the Bullfrog thing came from now. But their schedule not only competed with North Carolina State University's men's and women's basketball programs, but this little-known minor league hockey team called the Raleigh Ice Caps. The Raleigh Bullfrogs owner and former computer tech guy, Larry Hall, is determined to make it work, with one simple thing to help determine their roster and help bring in fans. Some of Raleigh's little star power. Alley-oop pioneer Monte Tao, also part of their national championship team, played for North Carolina State University from 72 to 75 and became the head coach. Lorenzo Charles nailed the winning layup to give NC State an 84 national championship. He's playing. Jack Nevitt is the tallest American basketball player in NBA history, even right now. That's not crazy. And is coming off a stint with the Bulls. He also played for North Carolina State. Welcome aboard. Chris Corchiani played for North Carolina State, and this is his first real pro attempt. Mike Morrison is the former Loyola Maryland star coming back from the Philippines. Mike Morrison is the first ever person from Loyola Maryland to be drafted into the league, and the only other player to have done that, Santi Aldama. I don't know why I had to include that. Andrew Moden is the last notable player from that starting 5, and he was a former Florida guard on his third team trying to make it as a pro. Despite the fact that they brought in a lot of star power to try to create momentum for this team, it did very little to help. Their poor home schedule and uncompetitive team made attendance basically non-existent for them. Their 2 other teams in state, however, the Greensboro Gators and Fayetteville Flyers, did find success in the playoffs, especially with the Fayetteville Flyers making it to the or either making it to the championship or semifinals. The information is kind of wonky with this league. One particular game saw the Bullfrogs lead 70 to 57 heading into halftime, only to lose 114-113 and be eliminated from the playoffs thanks to the Gators. The team found failure wherever it can be found. The city heavily preferred the hockey Ice Caps, which if you compare, we can't find attendance numbers for the Raleigh Bullfrogs, but estimates on Ice Caps attendance were 4,000 to 5,000, with the Bullfrogs most likely being closer to 1,000. And the owner couldn't afford to keep the Bullfrogs in Dorton, resulting in bankruptcy. The team will eventually have to disband and fold, and the entire league only lasted 1.5 seasons because anything Ted Stepien touches turns to crap. Oh, I can't curse. Crud. The lesson. I mean, Ted Sapien's involved. Don't touch it. Can't help but wonder what it would have been like for Raleigh to have a professional basketball team. But Greensboro has the G League team, the Greensboro Swarm, and Charlotte has, of course, the Hornets. So we probably will never see one. And plus, NC State plays at PNC Arena, so why bother with a professional team? I'm thinking about doing a blog or even like a group of videos that kind of goes deeper into Bullfrogs, the Gators, the Flyers, or any other kind of like smaller level North Carolina professional sports teams. If y'all are interested, well, I guess I don't know how you'd contact me, but just watch out. All right, time for the moment you were waiting for, the interview with Erik Kramer. Dun 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 dun.
And he came back and was amazing. I don't know what age he was, but he was damn good even then.
All right, awesome. I guess my next question, kind of riding off of that, is when you're coming into NC State, the team was coming off like three big losing seasons, and there's a new head coach, and it just felt like the whole culture kind of needed a change. Did you see yourself going into it as like being able to be the one to change the culture there?
Well, it wasn't me that changed the culture there. It was Coach Sheridan, and I shouldn't say changed the culture. He and his staff came in and clearly from the day they arrived on campus, uh, you could see that they knew what they were doing, and it was evident because the year before they killed us. so um, and so it was very, I feel very blessed to have been able to play for Coach Sheridan and his staff, um, and just the just the way they you could tell the way they treated everybody, players, staff, whoever. And um, I think we all knew, even though we hadn't played a game yet after spring practice, we knew we were going to be pretty good, and just didn't know how good. But I think once the game started happening, we could see that this was a whole different game than what we'd been playing.
All right. In the NFL, you got the nickname Brass Kramer for your boldness coming in as a backup.
Yeah.
Did that ever come out with the kind of disciplinarian style coaching Sheridan had?
Um, let's see. I'm trying to think here. I don't ever remember doing anything like going against anything he said
Yeah.
to do. But certainly, uh, you know, he left. He and that staff, he and his staff left a lot of room for, you know, we were we were very well fundamentally drilled, and then when the practices happened and the games happened, it was just an extension of that, and so it kind of made you able to think on your feet and improvise a bit and still within the context of the offense. So I think that's what stood out to me in my last year there was um, we had various ways to take advantage of whatever the defense did.
Mm. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of that came into the UNC game that I wanted to talk about. I know that coming into that game, UNC had a really big win streak against NC State, and they had, Mark May and Coach Crum. I forgot his first name. I apologize.
Dick
What
Crum.
was kind of the mindset going into that game, especially since I think the previous week you had a rough loss against Georgia Tech, and it's
Mm.
a historic rival. Even though you were from California, you may not feel that rivalry as much. Did that kind of rivalry have any effect on how the team was going into the game?
I don't know if the rivalry did as much, but certainly it's an in-state rivalry, and you definitely know, that week who you're playing. And I just think that, um, as every week, like you said, we came off a big loss against Georgia Tech, but every week we felt prepared going into the game, and UNC was no different. And I think rightfully so. I mean, we moved the ball against them kind of at will for the most part. And but yeah, I think that it's certainly a heightened sense of in intensity when you're playing, your rival from down the street.
Um, so I guess I'm kind of jumping a little bit, just closer to the end of the game. I know that it was, NC State. They were down, I think, 6 heading into the 2-minute warning, and I know that a lot of practices there are that 2-minute drill, and how did it feel kind of going into that 2-minute drive, basically?
Yeah, I think we're pretty confident,
All
and
right. Yeah.
we were. I didn't think we'd have an issue getting down the field. Obviously, you have to take everything one play at a time, but I think we were pretty well schooled going in, thinking, we're going to be all right. And, we had three, pretty good receivers back then in Haywood Jeffries and Naz Worthen and Danny Peebles, and a couple pretty good tight ends, a couple good running backs. And so, offensive line was solid. And things seemed to be, kind of working out pretty well for us on that drive.
Yeah. I'm heading into like the end of that drive. I know there were real like two big passes to Ness Wharton to help get that touchdown and secure the lead. Did you know like going into the drive that that was going to be like your guy for those big passes, or is it just kind of like right place at right time situation?
I think those things just kind of play themselves out. You don't break the huddle thinking, "Oh, I'm definitely throwing this one to Naz or particularly anybody," but just the way the defense, takes shape once the ball snapped, um, and you work out. You kind of try to move whatever defenders you need to move while you're in the act of reading what you're doing. And Naz was a great route runner and had great hands and could do a lot with it after he caught the ball. So, not surprising that Naz was on the receiving end of a couple of those.
Hmm. All right, I think that's about like most of the time I got. I guess do you have any like anything you want to say like about NC State or football in general?
Well, I'll say this from that last about that game itself was that thank God that the defensive line got a little pressure on Mark May on that 2 point play throw
Yeah.
because had he been able to put a little more air on it, there was nobody within 10 yards of that receiver.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And he would have walked in the end zone. So thankfully, he had a couple of defenders in his face and had to kind of throw the ball falling away. But I think it just goes to show you the resilience of our team, and I think specifically the coaching staff. How you know, um, I mean, we played some really good teams that year,
Oh yeah.
and we were one high ankle sprain away from beating Virginia, which we would have won the ACC what conference or league, and then most likely played in the January 1st bowl game. And
Yeah.
so I just think it's a tremendous tip of the cap, I would say, to Coach Sheridan. I got to know him more. I got to know him quite a bit, quite well, really, when I was there playing for him. But then I got to know him over the years even better. And there was a time when his son Bobby had put together a few DVDs really of our season that also had Coach Sheridan's same offense at Orangeburg High School, same offense at Furman, and it's amazing to sit and watch with him. Um, you could just see that defenses are constructed in a way where you're supposed to be disciplined and you're supposed to have your gap. And so if you're running a play, let's call it a trap, and inside, and the outside linebacker is making that play, that tackle for, let's say, 3 yards. All right, well, you can see Coach Sheridan is going to make that one particular player pay for it later at some point. And the way he called plays to me was phenomenal. I remember a game we played against Wake Forest, and it was at home, and it was a back and forth game. And I think they had Mike, forget his name, the quarterback. They were pretty good offensively, and we're coming down. There's about maybe 30 seconds to go, and I think we're on about the 20-ish, 25-yard line going in. There wasn't a whole lot of time left, and we had a play where the outside receiver ran to the post, and the inside guy runs a wheel route. And he goes, okay. He called timeout, and he goes, okay, we're going to run this play. And he goes, Erik, we're going to put Danny Peebles in the slot, and he's going to be wide open. Just make sure you don't overthrow it. So there's a guy that saw what was going to happen before it ever did, and called plays that way. And it taught me a lot about just what a class, not only class person he is, because I don't think there's a day in his life where he ever said a curse word. I don't ever remember him talking over the level I'm talking at right now, but he just commanded so much because he knew what he was doing. He treated people with like his own kids, with the utmost respect, and therefore you felt very honored to be on the team he was coaching. And I think to this day, a number of us off of that team get together once a year, and we gather up down at a big house in Myrtle Beach, watch a little football over the weekend, and all because of him, all because of his influence on all of us.
Yeah, that's all really great to hear. Thank you again for agreeing to do this interview with me. I really, really appreciate it.
You got it, Logan. My pleasure. Thanks
Yeah,
for reaching out the way you did. I'm glad it worked out.
of course. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Well, that's all with Eric Kramer. Make sure to check out his book, co-written with William Croyle, called "The Ultimate Comeback: Surviving a Suicide Attempt, Conquering Depression with and with a Purpose." Kind of a dark little twist, but it's some very powerful, very important stuff that people should read if they are feeling that way. And that's all for today's episode of In the Den. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day and go Pack.